Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for January 23, 2024. And in the news this afternoon, St. Elizabeth Police increasing gun seizures, says a commander. Head of the St. Elizabeth Police, Deputy Superintendent Coleridge Minto, says his division has been seizing more illegal firearms in the South Central Parish. In comparing the seizures made last year against the previous year, Minto, who assumed the control of the division mid-2023, said the efforts of the police in pursuing gangs have also increased. For 2022, 14 firearms were seized, and for 2023, 33 firearms were seized. This is a more than 100% increase over the previous year, and so far, for 2024, we are at 4 seizures, Minto said on Monday. A 28-year-old man was arrested and charged in relation to the latest seizure on Saturday after he was found with a pistol. Charged with possession of a prohibited weapon and unauthorized possession of ammunition is Nekoy Farkinson, a resident of Holt District in Santa Cruz. On Saturday, about 11:30 a.m., during a vehicle checkpoint operation which was being done on the Santa Cruz bypass, a blue Honda Civic motorcar was signaled to stop, and the driver complied, Minto said. The driver had one male passenger in the front seat. Both men were searched, and the passenger was found with a magazine containing 3 9mm rounds in the front of his pants waist and a 9mm pistol found in his private area. He was arrested and charged for possession of a prohibited weapon and unauthorized possession of ammunition, Minto added. Also, the St. Elizabeth Police Chief said last Friday, during a snap raid conducted in the Comapen area of the New Forest Main Road, they found 21.32 Smith & Wesson rounds, 17 12-gauge cartridges, and 39mm cartridges. No one was arrested in relation to those seizures. Last week, 4 people were arrested during a joint anti-gang task force operation in Pepper District, northern St. Elizabeth, and in recent weeks, cocaine and marijuana were seized in the parish. In the meantime, a multi-agency investigation has been launched following the discovery of a burnt-out plane in the Elam Breeze River area. The plane was registered in Venezuela. Veteran trade unionist questions roles of directors in officers' interdiction. Senior trade unionist Vincent Morrison has questioned the role of the National Environment and Planning Agency Board during the initial discovery of breaches at the housing development owned by National Water Commission President Mark Barnett and his wife Annette Francis Barnett, charging that NEPA's interdiction of the inspector, who was the first to highlight the irregularities, is suspect. The officer, who the news was told had responsibility for monitoring the development to ensure compliance with the permit, had during a site visit in 2020 found discrepancies with what was approved initially. The officer, in accordance with his duties, compiled a report which he submitted to a supervisor with recommendations that a warning letter be issued to Barnett to come into compliance within 7 days. Subsequently, another officer went on site and made similar observations and recommendations. The reports of both individuals were factored in the investigation of the Integrity Commission, and both were interviewed. However, only the officer who compiled the first report had been placed on interdiction, the news has learnt. The officer was last Wednesday served a notice of interdiction and ushered from the entity's Caledonia Avenue premises in the corporate area. Reacting to the action reported in this week's news, Morrison, president of the Union of Clerical, Administrative and Supervisory Employees, said, "The question I would ask in this whole exercise is where was NEPA's board, where were senior managers in the whole exercise? Because to now interdict the officer, don't tell me that that development or the other developments across the country are just left solely to officers on the ground. Senior management is actually supposed to be reporting to the board. The board has something to say in these exercises," Morrison noted further. According to the veteran trade unionist, NEPA's board should be pinpoint in the entire saga. "I think it is where the spotlight should be thrown in the whole exercise. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to get reports and whatever. So it is a situation where the employee has done their job, where the employee has made reports to the relevant authority, and the relevant authority turns a blind eye. I am not saying that this is the case, but if this is the case, then I think it is unfair at this point to put pressure on the employee, he stated. Morrison went further to compare the NEPA scenario to the unfolding saga between regulator, the Financial Services Commission, and the fraud-hated Stocks and the Securities Limited, which are locked in a court battle following the discovery of a multi-billion-dollar fraud racket at the investment house. As the officer who organized the FSC workers years ago, my information is that the workers had done their duty, made their report to the relevant authorities, and the relevant authorities didn't do what they had to do. I am saying if that is the case, then it is unfair, unjust, not right to use the workers at this late stage as scapegoats, he declared. The Integrity Commission, in a report on its investigations into the residential development at 11 Charlie Mount Drive, Kingston 6, which was tabled in Parliament last October, said the couple breached the building, planning and environmental permits and sought the ruling of Director of Public Prosecutions, Paul Llewellyn, on the allegations of irregularities in the approval and the post-permit monitoring processes. The DPP, however, in her ruling, said that although the allegations support the laying of criminal charges against the Barnetts for breaching the environmental permit, which is an offense under the Natural Resources Conservation Authority Act, there can be no prosecution as a criminal action is statute barred, given that the initiation of prosecution is time-sensitive and was not initiated within 12 months of the breach being identified. Llewellyn, however, agreed with the Integrity Commission that Barnett was in breach of the NRCA Act and the Building Act. Barnett has been on administrative leave since October after the Commission released its report. Last Wednesday, eyebrows were raised at NEPA's offices as the officer, who the news understands is employed to the entity for over 5 years, was called into a meeting with senior management and informed of the interdiction. He was then seen being marched to his workstation and instructed regarding what to remove, with all work-related devices seized. The officer, under strong guard, was allowed to clear his desk, ordered to exit the premises, and instructed not to return unless given an official invitation. The 2016 Public Bodies Disciplinary Policy states that, depending on the allegation of misconduct reported, it may be necessary to remove an employee from the immediate work area in order to conduct the investigation. This removal may be in the form of a temporary transfer or interdiction or suspension with pay or part thereof. It, however, says suspension or interdiction should not be done without considering and discussing alternatives, and should be for the shortest possible time. It further says removing an employee from office should not be used unless it is extremely necessary, and should not be seen as a penalty, but as a measure to ensure that the public interest is served and the investigations are carried out in a manner with the least likelihood of interference. It also says an employee who has been removed from duty for investigation purposes shall be deemed to be properly served if the notification is sent to a prepaid registered letter properly addressed and posted to the address on record, is sent by a bearer or courier, and there is a signature of receipt. Additionally, it says, based on the nature and the circumstances of the charge, employees may be removed from duty with a pay or part thereof. The amount is determined by the circumstances of the allegations or charge. That is, the more serious the charge, the less is paid. The general principle is that an employee should not be paid less than half salary.